Hello. Is it working? I made this video last week and then I realized the sound was off. This was supposed to be out last week. So, let's try again. I have a confession. I feel bored. Sometimes I feel jaded. And sometimes it takes me a moment to care about anything. But this was not always the case. It's been almost 4 years since a top of mind video I made went viral and I ended up on Fox News. Going viral was not my intention and definitely not what would happen after. And I want to make a quick point here. It does say activist on the clip at the point that I made the video, and even to this day I do not consider myself an activist. I certainly was not an activist then. I was very much a private citizen, I would say, just posting my thoughts on social media. But of course, what else would they say? They had to call me something. So activist is what they went with. I'm pointing this out because that title of activist was a source of contention with the people that came to attack what I was saying. Because I did not display, at least not on social media, the typical profile of an activist. So I just wanted to clarify that. Going on Fox News led to hundreds and hundreds of people messaging me on my Instagram and email. It was crazy. I wanted to hide under a rock. I was not ready for it. And I also didn't expect it. You might think if you go on Fox News, that is surely to happen. But I've never in my life messaged anyone that I've seen on Fox News. So I was a little bit naive about it. I thought it would be a one-night thing and then I would go on to my normal life. I was simply not ready for what came after. I was offered a bunch of opportunities. None of them were paid though. Just things that required an investment of my time, including writing a book, which I did, writing for Newsweek, and going on a bunch of podcasts. Some of the opportunities I did take. But for the most part, I did not want it. Some part of me wanted it all to go away. So I started trying to lay low. Honestly, because it was all so much. It took me weeks to go through all the messages, and alongside a lot of positive ones, there were a lot of hateful ones. So, I decided to write the book. I could do that by disconnecting from the chatter and just do research for a few hours a week. But then I decided to share my thoughts on social media, or rather, I felt obliged to. Suddenly, I had a couple new thousand followers expecting opinions from me. So in a way, I felt a bit of pressure, but also I figured, my Instagram account is under my control. And therefore, I could share my content on my terms, which led to today. From 2,000 followers on Instagram, I went to 5,000, then 8,000, then 10,000. I was feeling good about things. There was a lot of positive feedback, a lot of opinions, and a lot of trolls. Not my favorite part. My least favorite part, though, was arguing with people I knew. People that I know, if I had discussed this topic with them in person, they might have understood my perspective a little better. But everything said online has a very different effect. In early 2021, I decided to disconnect for a month. I just wanted to chill out for a little bit. I think I was done with the rage posting. And, since then, I have disconnected more and more from my Instagram. And I have not been able to get back to the same intensity on Instagram since. And I have lost a lot of followers since then, but that's okay. I was posting stories every day. And I was told my stories were addictive. I was getting hit with that dopamine constantly. But after I disconnected, I just didn't feel that fire anymore. I guess that month led to some self-reflection, and when it comes to YouTube, someone that had followed me from an anonymous profile on Instagram offered to edit my content for YouTube. And he was quite good, but the problem was I never got to know who he was in reality. Though he wanted to partner with me to make more content on YouTube, I couldn't partner with him because I just simply didn't know who he was, and he wasn't comfortable sharing. That's okay. It's all good. Now I get to practice the art of editing. Later that year in 2021, I also got a job working for a new startup, creating reels and TikToks for them about current events. And I absolutely hated it. It sapped my creative energy, so I was barely giving my own platform attention. And honestly, it didn't end amicably. They were skipping out on paying some other creators, in fact, probably most. But hey, since then, it seems the owners were bought out of the company. So, my creative juice, as I mentioned, that fire was a bit exhausted, a bit burnt out. Thankfully, while all this was happening, I was giving more to my relationship. I got engaged and most recently married. But now, I'm in a position where I have time to think about things and these topics more. And the art of self-development and health and all these topics that really affect our lives. And I have wanted to get back to creating content more so on YouTube than on Instagram, because my Instagram content was so fleeting. It was only on my stories. It was a 24-hour thing. My problem is, sometimes, some days, I don't quite care as much as I used to about the things which grew my audience in the first place. And let me be clear, it's not that I don't care necessarily. It's just that I have talked about it so much on my stories that were fleeting and were just there for 24 hours that I'm not longer that driven as I was before. And I sometimes wish I had put that energy into creating more long-term content. And as I said from the beginning, I've also become a little jaded. The crazy just keeps getting crazier, and it barely elicits any interest or passion or emotion from me. In some ways, I have changed my mind, radicalized on some things, de-radicalized in some other ways. I also came to find things out that if I said them aloud in public, I could easily have all my accounts deleted. And I have already had one video deleted for insinuating certain things. Some people do it successfully, I'm not sure how. But at the same time, I ask myself, how much do I want to risk? What is the line that I want to walk? Those are questions I ask myself often. And honestly, it gives me a little bit paralyzed. Okay, so now what? What is next for me? I want to keep creating content, don't get me wrong, but I'm also looking at different avenues. I'm currently living the life of a housewife. Day to day, very traditional, except for my interest in making content and my interest to have my own side business that I can do from home. Because as I said, I have the time and I really have the interest. And with that said, my family business in many ways has been in the healthcare sector. My dad is an engineer, but his side of the family are the primary partners in a hospital back home. My grandfather was a doctor. My other grandfather built a hospital, which now his brother manages. And my dad owns a clinic in Florida, which my uncle manages, and my husband is a doctor. So in that sense, sometimes I think maybe this is a sector I should look into, but in the non-traditional way. For many years, I struggled with my weight, though I was never obese. I went through a bunch of different diets and now I'm pretty happy of where I am. With all that said, I know this might be a big pivot, but my latest thing has been to join the Institute of Integrative Nutrition to be a certified integrative nutrition coach. And I know it seems random, I know, but other than culture and politics, this has been a thing for me for years. A huge motivation also is that maybe even one day I'll collaborate with my husband in some business that we can do together that would allow us to be more free of the systems in place. And he has a lot to say about the medical system, even though he's a part of it. I start in a couple weeks, and I'm honestly not sure how it will all play out, how I will integrate it with my other interests. But I need to try something to break me out of this mental rut, and we'll see where it goes. I'm just taking it one piece of content at a time. Don't think that I'm not going to create content about the other more controversial topics, because those are coming. Those are down the pipeline. But I just wanted to let you know where my head is at the moment. And I also felt the need to say these things. I think this video will be the video that I come back to a year from now to look back on that trajectory. So, with saying that, even though I have considered starting from scratch in social media, at this point, I think I can still pivot or even continue gathering data or integrate my interests a bit better. Going viral did not mean in any way that I knew what I was doing on social media. I am still learning. I wish I had been a little bit more prepared for that moment. But the problem with going viral is that it set me up on a path. I almost think that if the growth had taken me 2 years instead of 2 months to attain, I would have had more of a chance to understand what I really want to talk about a little bit better, instead of feeling like there was an expectation. Now, don't get me wrong, the positives are really cool too. I got to connect with some cool people, and I didn't grow too much. Let's be honest, my social media presence is not that large. I can still pivot and figure things out. And also, I think most importantly, it gave me the confidence and the proof to see that it can be done. That people that create online content are not some kind of robots. That doing this isn't totally unreachable. My growth on YouTube has actually been a lot more organic than on IG. And I'm grateful for that. Hopefully, I will continue to post on here and continue to explore. Maybe next time, I really need to dig deep on the Renaissance soul, on the downside and the positive. Do you struggle with that sometimes? Let me know what you think. And also let me know if there's anything specific that interests you that you want to hear from me, although I can't promise anything given my waning interest. If I don't find the topic particularly appealing, it's gonna be hard for me to get through it. So I can't promise anything. Sorry. I'll check it out though. See you guys next time.